Andrew over at Maple Leaf Customs has invited the community to join him in the third annual Porsche Invitational. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do for this event, but then it dawned on me I had this casting and some parts that Ben Popp designed, and we'll discuss that a little more later. But what I wanted to do is based upon this, the Reno Air Show. I love the highly polished planes in this event. You see the pylon over there to the right with the Reno on it and the steel logo that I'm not adding any advertising to this channel. But it dawned on me, I wanted to do a shiny Porsche at the Reno Air Show at some point in the future. Let's just say, I don't know, 25 years out there, something like that. So here you see the casting, and I stripped it down. It's not a lot to it. It's a very nice basic casting. It's a great looking little car, obviously. But I wanted to streamline it a little, so I filled in the hole in the hood, filled in the two vents in the front bumper area. And I knew I wanted this to be shiny. And recently I picked up a new rattle can chrome paint that I wanted to try on this. I've tried it on one other casting as well so far. I was pleased with the results on that, and I figured, I'll be pleased with it on this too. So I hit this with some JB Weld, which doesn't come as any surprise to anyone that watches the channel. Did it the usual way with the tape on the outside and filling it in from the inside, taking care not to have too much buildup on the inside. In a way, this works well, but in a way, filling these in came back to bite me a little bit because of the chrome paint. And we'll also get into that a little bit later. But there you see me filling it. I let it set overnight, pull the tape off, and I have some nice smooth surfaces to work with. I do end up hitting those with Bondo spot putty, as you've seen me do before, more than likely. Because as much as I like how smooth these surfaces are, they aren't perfect. And so the Bondo spot putty fills in any remaining little roughness. I also wanted to get rid of the door handles because I'm making a flying Porsche. And I don't know, it just seemed weird to me to have door handles on a flying Porsche. Left the doors, which may have also been stupid. But the door handles seem stupid to me. So I got rid of those. And there you see it. After I've smoothed it off even more, I'm really pleased with how it looks at this point. I sand down those front areas that I filled in. And those I couldn't get quite perfect because of their placement and what was around them. I did need to get rid of that black section of the interior that stuck up through the hood. I did have to, and I think I do it off camera if I remember right, the back area behind the seats on the Porsche, I needed to cut out a portion of those because there won't be any wheels on this. There's going to be engines. And so I had to modify that. So here you see what Ben Popp designed. Ben of BP Custom Creations designed this base for the Outlaw Porsche. And those engines, I forget which column, but basically those fin areas that I'm adding there to the base. And I love the work he did on this. It's beautiful. But when I printed them, I had some printing problems. I actually printed these, it had to be at least 3 months ago. It was when he was first working on the design. And I love the look of it. The detail on them is great. The fins on those exhausts are great. And again, keep in mind, I'm going for a very shiny look, a very clean look, like those planes that fly in the event. There isn't a speck of dirt on any of those if you've seen them. So this did take a little work, fit and finish kind of work, getting that in there the way I wanted it. I could have left those fins out a little further. I could have done a few different things. But with a little sanding and filing, I was able to get those round exhausts to fit properly. There you can see how I sanded down the back halves on the back end of the car. And then I just CA glued them into place. It's a real cool design. I really like what he did with this. And I will put a link to his channel. I'll put a link to both Andrew's channel and Ben's channel in the description for this video. I'm certain if you're watching my video, you are probably already subscribed to both of them. If not, I'm not quite sure how you missed them. So you definitely need to go over and check both of them out. Andrew does a lot of builds similar to the ones I do. Ben does a lot of really interesting, incredibly imaginative stuff. And I really like it. So be sure and check both of them out. As by the time you see this, you will have seen Andrew's Silva Challenge build. And you will see that Andrew is quite imaginative too. There's the chrome spray. It's a new type that I've been using. This is the second casting I'm using it on, and the clear that you've seen before. The decals I wanted to keep very simple, so I designed basically, those are white toner decals. You see there's the base for the Deutschland stripes, and that's also going to be on the top and the hood of the cars. You see there is the Porsche name on the trunk area, or the engine cover back there. And then I did do the indicator lights to match an aircraft. So the left side, front and back, are red. The right side, front and back, are green. May look a little odd, but it's a flying car. You may notice I put black lines on the decal to separate the colors. I originally did the set without those. I didn't like the look. I thought they needed those fine black lines for the separation, in case you're curious. There's that resin base hit with the chrome paint. And I love how this thing looks. And so now I'm just using tire black on the insides of those engines. I thought about making them glowing red. I thought about putting something in there. I thought about using almost like a cotton type fabric that I have, throwing them in there to make it look more flamish. Didn't like it, so I stuck with the flat black, and I'm really happy with the results. I'm happy that I did. I did gauzy the windshield. Gauzy, 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 for those playing the game. I thought about closing off some of the windows, and then I thought, no, I really like the look of the 356. It's a classic look. It's a beautiful look to this car. I don't think anybody can look at the 356 and not think it is just an absolutely gorgeous design. So did the gauzy in the usual way, wicking off the excess and then throwing it in the little cover there. And at this point, I'm ready to assemble the car itself. You'll notice I didn't drill the posts. That's because, well, first I used the resin pin here to hold the glass in place. I don't believe I needed to do this because I do use the interior of the car as well. But just to play it safe, in case that interior, after I put it all together, was sitting ever so slightly lower than it did originally, I didn't want the glass to sit lower. And so I just hit that with the resin pin and made sure it was in there securely as on the original casting. And I love the Bondic resin pin. Works out great. Again, I didn't drill the posts on this because I will be CA gluing this together. Because of the design of the base, I didn't want to alter it to be able to screw it together. So there I'm dropping the interior in, and if you look very closely, you can see I notched out some of the area in the back behind the driver and passenger seats. And then there's the base. That is a resin printed base. I really like how the chrome paint turned out on that. I did not clear coat the base. I put some small details on it, but I didn't want to clear coat it because it kept more of the chrome look. Where I did use that same chrome paint on the body, then put the decals on, then put my usual clear coat on it, and it did deaden the paint a little, as you'll see. Ben designed this beautifully. It's a nice snug fit the way that base fits in there. You know, if I really wanted to, I probably didn't need to CA glue that in place, and I only lightly did that. So now the car's done, it's time for a really simple small diorama. You may recall the pylon at the air races with the Reno on it. Because again, these air races are held in Reno, Nevada. They've been going forever, geez. Got out a CD, and I had the lucite stick. You may have seen that, the other half of that stick, when I did a flying Mini Cooper build. Well, it was time to make something fly again. So I took that, CA glued it down to that CD. I took a very small piece of tubing that will be an outer tube, and I attached that to the other side of the CD here. And what's going to happen? If you remember that pylon, it's just on a pole. It's nothing fancy. So I'm basically using a piece of aluminum tubing here as an outer tube, and then I'll just put a solid rod into that to hold that pylon. Now, so that it was a little thicker of a base, you'll see that I have the cork that I cut there. I'm doing it in two pieces just to make it easier for me to do, rather than trying to hit holes on a round circle really accurately. I just did it in two halves. Hit it with Mod Podge. You can't beat Mod Podge. It's like the handiest stuff to have around. Speaking of Andrew, I saw him do a build, last weekend. I think it was the Four Horsemen, his St. Valentine's Day Massacre Four Horsemen build. And he put a tarp on the back of that build. And that tarp he coated with Mod Podge. And then painted it appropriately. But yeah, you can't beat having a bottle of Mod Podge around. So there you see the tube, there you see the rod. I just ran some tape around the rod for the thickness to hold it in place. And then I basically added into that tube glue at both ends, just PVA glue on both ends to seal it off and to hold that in place. And I've seen various pictures of that pylon, and there really isn't much holding it onto the pole. So I didn't feel too bad about doing it this way. It's more realistic than you realize. So then it was just time, I throw down more Mod Podge. I throw some turf on there. I got a bunch of these Woodland Scenics bottles of different kinds of turf. There was no way I was going to pay. These things are like, I think, $11 each for these jars. And so I got on eBay a while back. I might have mentioned this in another video. And found somebody who was getting out of railroading, because there's always somebody getting out of railroading, like all hobbies. And they had a bunch of these that were like half full that they were getting rid of at a ridiculously low price. I snapped them up. And how much do you really need for 1/64th scale stuff? Not much. So I probably have more Woodland Scenic stuff than I'll be able to use in this lifetime. There you saw I made a decal, or decal. I made a decal with the Reno wording on it, similar to that pylon that you saw in the earlier picture from the air show. I did not add the steel logo as I mentioned at the time. There's been a couple sponsors. I believe they also had Breitling, a Breitling logo on the Reno pylon. In some of the pictures I saw, and I thought, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm keeping this clean, keeping it just the Reno wording. It appeared to be on 3 places on the pylon, so I thought, okay, that's easy enough to do. Found the font that was closest to what the Reno pylon looks like, and just applied it. So there you see where we started, and I made a flying car. There are some other pictures in the glamour shots with this where I took the post that it sits on, that attaches it to that clear post, and then angled it so that it looks more like it's tilted into the turn. So I did it 2 different ways. And you'll see that in the glamour shots coming up. I'd like to thank Andrew for hosting this event. It's a great event. He gets a fantastic turnout for this event every year. So be sure and check out his build and all the other builds participating in this event. I'm sure he'll have a recap video on his channel as well. A link to his channel will be in the description of this video. Also, be sure to check out BP Custom Creations, which if it wasn't for his contribution to this build, I wouldn't have a flying Porsche. So thanks to Ben for providing this to me. And be sure and check out his builds on his channel. A link will be provided to that as well in the description to this video. So there you see the base. I put very little detail on it, but I wanted it shiny like the ones in the air show. There it is, tilted a little. Up, up, and away. Everybody, thanks for watching this video. I hope you like this build. And stay safe and healthy out there. I'll catch you in the next one.